I'm Andy Davies, I'm the Service Delivery Control Manager. We're based at Riverside. I've been with the company just over 12 months now. I came from Blackpool, I moved area. I was in Blackpool for 30 years and I worked for Blackpool Transport on and off for 25 of those years. So various experience throughout the industry.
How do you think, as a gay woman, how do you think things have changed being a member of the LGBT community over your 27 years spent in the industry?
It's changed massively. Homosexuality was decriminalised in 1967. So there'll still be some people of an age that can remember it being against the law. But that doesn't mean when it was decriminalised, it stopped people's prejudices and it stopped discrimination, especially in the workplace employment. I mean, 2000, I think, the year 2000, you were only allowed then to be gay in the army. Now that isn't that long ago.
21 years.
Yeah, so people had to hide their sexuality. So we've come on in leaps and bounds, especially when I was younger. I mean, you see gay people now getting married. Unheard of. Never ever did I think I would have the day where I could, stand up and do a bride speech or whatever, because you just never thought it. You accepted it that way. It was never going to happen. Couples back in my day, they wouldn't even hold hands in the street. You couldn't. You had to keep it well hidden, for fear of people calling you out, calling you names, and even being attacked, etc. So we've come a long way from when I was young and first out in the 80s to where we are now. I mean, it's been a massive change. In nightclubs back in my day, they were frequented by gay people, transgenders, bisexuals. People would find out where gay people gathered in these pubs and be waiting outside, and they would get attacked just for their sexuality. Gay bashing, I think, was the term. And it wasn't taken really that seriously by the police either in those days. Now, back in the day, even 20 years, 30 years, 40 years ago, gay people had no rights as part of a relationship. You could have been with somebody for 20, 30 years, and if your partner unfortunately was ending in hospital, you didn't have a right to even phone up and ask how they were. You had no rights of even life-saving decisions for an operation to be done if your partner wasn't capable of answering that question. Even so much as a life support machine being switched off wasn't your decision. They would go to the next of kin, who could be their mother, their father, their brother or whatever, and you had no rights, and yet you'd lived a life with that person for 20 years, 30 years, and you didn't have any rights. Fortunately and thankfully, the world has changed enough to know, you have full rights.
You have that, A lot changed in that time as well, didn't it?
It did. But some would say it changed for the worse, where we were making progress, and then, as you know, mid to late 80s, we had the AIDS, which knocked back people's prejudices and it knocked back the gay rights movement years, because people were very much decriminalised then and discriminated against. As the drama currently, It's a Sin shows on the television. And then we had Clause 28 then the 80s as well. So as much as it might have progressed from decriminalisation in the late 60s and pushed forward through the 70s and into the 80s, it also took a big knock back. When I first started in the industry in the 90s, I mean, the bus industry has always been male dominated. And usually you were either a man or a butch lesbian that drove a bus. It didn't attract many other people. And if you weren't one of those, you worked in the offices. You were a typist, or a receptionist or whatever. And, you know, there was very little progression for gay people as I saw in my early years in the industry. All the inspectors were men, all the managers were men. You know, women were very rare. You know, if you had a promotion as a woman, you were probably worked in HR.
Right.
You know, and through admin.
Yeah.
But on the operations side of it, women didn't progress at all.
Dominated. Yeah.
When I started, I worked my way through as a bus driver, and then worked my way through in the industry. Fortunately, as times began to change, when I became an operations manager for Blackpool Transport, I was the first female operations manager they'd had in 125 years.
Wow. So you broke records?
I did a broke record in Blackpool as the first female manager. And
that's an achievement.
And then I became head of operations at Blackpool, which would never be heard of as a woman.
If
to
you've
get
gone
that.
back into
Oh
it.
yeah.
That's quite something, that.
It is. It's a long road, but lately it's been a fast-paced road.
Yeah.
But you know, there's several reasons why this must go ahead and must be out there, because there is still people around the world without the rights that we are privileged to have. You know, there's still 73 jurisdictions in the world where it's still a criminal act. You know, so we've still got to fight. But those, we can't say, well, I'm all right, Jack. You know, there's still people out there. In 2019, 331 trans and gender diverse people were killed. So there's still a fight to be had, you know, and we need to keep fighting for equal rights for them. More literature about LGBTQ+. I mean, you know, history books rarely mention homosexuality. They might mention somebody's achievements, but they don't mention that they were gay, you know, and so to show that people had successes, and gay people had successes as well. You know,
I think Alan Turing was only pardoned for being arrested for homosexuality a few years ago, wasn't he? And look what Alan Turing did.
Exactly.
You know.
Wasn't Turing though? Was he castrated? Chemically castrated, wasn't he? For his preferences.
Shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need to also remember how far we've come as well, and it's only through, you know, people like the LGBTQ+ History Month and the education and making people aware. I mean, Caitlyn Jenner, she came out as transgender in 2015. The press went mental. It was all over the place, you know, oh my God. And now we celebrate transgender people. And that's only 5 years. So we are rolling at a fast pace for acceptance, I feel. And what we need to do as well with LGBTQ+ is to try and get it into schools to educate. I mean, gay people have children. The children go to school, but they never reflected on their life. It's always reflected in their straight life. You know, and so how can they identify?
That my family is a normal family.
And so that, I think, needs more education in schools for that.
I think there is progress on that. But there's definitely more to be done.
But that's why it's important we have these history months, we have these education stuff, just to keep it out.
But clearly...
Oh yeah, there's still more to do.
There is more to do.
And why we've got people still being killed, why we've got people still being criminalised, you know, then we need to keep pushing for the fight, definitely. And, you know, I'm not saying there's no prejudice now, John, because people are entitled to their own opinions and their own rights. What it is now is they can't express them as freely as they used to years ago.
Well, they can, but there's repercussions.
Oh yeah, there is.
That's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember when I first came out when I was 16, and I had quite a large group of friends, and I came out to them, and it sort of divided the friends, because some were fine with it, and some were really not. And I used to ride a motorbike at the time. I remember being in this, it's been a chippy, I think it was. My bike was pulled up outside, and this group of people that weren't okay with it came past, must have seen me in the chippy, and spit all over my motorbike. You know, just for me, and that made me go back in. And I didn't tell anybody for, I think I was 19 when I came out again.
So have you always been out while you've been in the bus industry?
Yes.
So when you joined Blackpool Transport in 1994, whatever,
yes,
you've always been out?
Yeah, I moved to Blackpool to be with a relationship, and I've always been quite a confident person, and I've always been, and I think with that confidence came then, because I was older then, I was 24, 25 when I first moved to Blackpool, 30 when I joined the bus industry, but I'd also been out on the gay scene in Blackpool, so I knew a lot of people. That gives you confidence because you don't feel so isolated. So by the time I went on the buses, I was, this is who I am, accept me or don't accept me, and I was quite strong over that. It's still, you're still conscious when people are shunning you or not speaking to you, or you go to take over a driver on the bus and he won't look you in the eye, or
it makes you wonder,
or you try and talk to them and they won't engage in conversation, or you walk through the canteen and you hear flip comments, and you can't say that doesn't bother you, because it does.
Well, you're human, aren't you?
Yeah, but what I do is I don't let it get me down, because I am me. And I'm 57 years I've been around now nearly, and I can't change now.
In your time in the bus industry, have you ever experienced any explicit homophobia or comments that are directly aimed at you and are about sexuality?
Yeah. I mean, when as you progress through management as well, it gets worse, because women in operations management aren't always respected, because women haven't telling me.
Yeah. So there's a gender aspect.
There's the gender aspect of it. There's the position aspect of it.
Yeah.
And then there's the sexuality aspect of it. So I've got no chance. Trying to manage 500 staff that 450 of them were men. But I remember that, it used to get said that you could only get a favour off Mandy if you were a gay woman. So people were assuming, that I would only favour gay people. But on one direct one I had to unfortunately dismiss a gentleman for conduct, and I bumped into him shortly afterwards, and he very loudly across the shop was telling everybody that he'd been dismissed by me, and I used to ride a motorbike at the time, and he shouted, "You're nothing but a dyke on a bike."
It's very imaginative.
I know, but I was incensed, because I thought, how dare you, this was nothing to do with a Saturday afternoon in a shop, it was business, and you've brought my sexuality into it. So I actually reported him under a hate crime to the police.
Did anything come of that?
Yes, the police went round and spoke to him, and they took it very seriously. And that's how I know how much has progressed. And they took it very seriously, and they went to his house, and he sent an apology and said that it won't happen again, and he didn't realise how offensive the remark was that he'd made.
So flippant comments like that that people make
Yeah.
sometimes in the heat of the moment or whatever can really hurt people.
Oh yeah, it's not acceptable, you know. It's but having said that, Joel, 20 years ago, I would have had nowhere to go with it.
So just one last question then. So you're part of One Team GNE, you're a management facilitator with me and Will. We're obviously covering lots of different things as part of One Team GNE, but why is the initiative and the LGBTQ part of it important to talk about in our workplace, do you think?
I think it's very important under the LGBT, is because it can be quite a lonely place being a gay person, and a very, dominated place to work with the canteen banter and etc. And I want people to feel safe and belong and enjoy their job, and be part of a community where not everybody has to be gay. Not everybody has to be straight. They just work for one team, and that's what we all tried to achieve. And I think I'm quite passionate about it because I've seen both ends of the scale. And never ever do anybody ever want to go back into them dark days again.